Well, let's put a couple shrimps on the Barbie and get rolling here. It's episode 60. I'm Coach Ballgame, and my partner in crime is Chad Chop. Coach Chopper, how you doing, my brother?
Hey ho, I'm doing well here, Coach Ballgame. I'm on location here, getting ready to take on a crosstown rival with the boys, Push Ridge Lions. So we're ready to go here. We're gonna do little flips in the cage. We're gonna jump on a team bus, and we're gonna drive across town and get after it.
Okay, paint a picture for the listener here. If you're not watching on YouTube, we don't have visual of Chopper today. Paint a picture. Where are you podcasting from today, specifically?
Well, I'm turning into the school right now. I'm going to be flipping some balls in the cage to some players, and then I'll be driving across town, and that's what I'll be doing for the entirety of the pod today. I'm going to be moving. I'm going to be multitasking, and I'm going to throw in some bubble gum here and just see if I can get a tertiary action while I'm asking questions and learning from the great Peter
Moylan. Yeah, our guest today is the Aussie Peter Moylan. Just a great guy, a friend of many friends of the pod, currently broadcasting with the Atlanta Braves. He also has a podcast with Kelsey Wingert, just had her on the platform of John Boy Media, had John Boy on recently as well. But man, oh man, I've said this before when I'm doing my research on our guests, when you unpack this story here, I mean, wow. The some highlights on my homework page here, obviously Team Australia, and Team Australia is moving on to the quarterfinals in Tokyo. They'll play Cuba tomorrow. I'm sure he's got lots to talk about there. He's actually coached a lot of those players that are on that Team Australia. But I mean, a long and winding road, picked up by the Twins when he was 18 out of high school, got released at the age of 20. And then he had a bunch of odd jobs, concreter, pool plumber, pest control salesman. He was actually the #1 lift chair salesman in Melbourne, Australia for a little bit, pharmaceutical rep, and a pitcher in the Chinese Professional Baseball League. And then a little something called the 2006 World Baseball Classic got him back on the MLB map. And that's when he got picked up by the Bravos and had a 12-year career in the show. Did you ever have any run-ins, maybe a little Giants, Braves, or I know he actually played for the Dodgers one year. I think it was 2016, 2017. Did you ever run into the Aussie Peter Moylan?
I did not, but you think I would have remembered the accent. So I'm sure I saw him on the field, but I didn't know that I was in the presence of greatness at that time. But I'm certain that our paths crossed, undoubtedly.
And
hear those
if you
baseballs
remember,
rattling around.
I love that. Love that podcast coming from the batting cage as Chopper's getting the boys ready for a big game today.
Let me see if I can briefly. Hey, let's briefly turn on the video just real quick. Just so
let's see
a little.
Oh yes.
Let's see if we can. Oh yeah, you see that? Yeah.
That Arizona sunshine. It's looking good, man. I mean, I say you keep it on there. For our listeners, tune into the YouTube. It's a sunny day in Arizona. He's got his bright green shades on. The beard looks good.
It's game day.
It's game day. And you might recall a few weeks ago we had Kelsey Wingert on, and she was interviewing then player Peter Moylan. And she thought that he was putting on the Australian accent, but he's not. This is going to be a great 60-minute conversation, and just sit back and laugh, listener, because it's going to be super fun. But before he jumps on, Chopper, I did release my my Sandlot tour schedule, and it's 60 different cities. And, we had a nice little Instagram and TikTok live announcement on Sunday, and we announced all the different towns and all the different boots on the ground that have helped launch this thing and get it rolling. So I'm just super pumped. I'll be in New Jersey in a couple of weeks, cranking it up over there. Hopefully, it won't be snowing, and then we'll just be, flying, rental cars, hotels, staying in people's guest rooms and couches as I do 60 of these things in 60 different cities, 30 different states, even up in Canada. So I'm fired up to spread the message of Sandlot. It's gonna be wild. And one state I don't have on the list, sadly, is Arizona. So
No,
I think we got to
gotta
get that
change
going
that.
in 2024. We just got to get that going.
I got the venue.
Yeah, you do. It's a
I got
beautiful
the
venue.
venue. It's
I
not a bad
know.
venue. It's a nice place nestled right up against Mount Lemon here,
Good Lord. Good
the
Lord.
foothills of Oro Valley.
Without further odor, our guest has arrived. And Chopper, you can't see this, but I mean, I thought my man cave was dialed in. Man, slap me silly and call me Don Johnson, because this man cave that the Australian assassin Peter Moylan has is amazing. Snaps for our guest. We've already been talking about you, Pete, and
Good.
you can't see our you can't see Chop. Chad Chop is actually, he's got a game today. He's coaching his high school team, and he's going to be doing front flips from the batting cage.
Commitment.
I mean, that's commitment while doing a pod.
Multitasking. I'm multitasking. Let's go.
Chopper meet Pete. Pete meet Chopper. Bang.
Good morning. Let's go.
How are you, Chop? Yeah, you know what? This is actually, this is a proud part for me. You know, it's got all my favorite things around me. It's actually a pretty small office style room, so I wouldn't exactly call it a man cave. I'll just call it my office. Makes me sound more formal too. That's just good.
God, it's beautiful. I usually have the same setup, minus like 70 of those awesome things. I got a guitar and a couple of, baseballs behind me, but I'm in an Airbnb right now because my house is getting renovated because there's leaks. So this is we're coming in hot. Airbnb. My oldest daughter is homesick. She's got a little cough and a stomach ache, so she's being extremely quiet in the playroom. And yeah, here I am rocking and rolling. Peter Moylan.
How far is the Airbnb from the normal house?
Oh, not far. Maybe
okay, good.
8 minutes.
Okay.
Not too bad. What's your favorite memorabilia piece in that room right there? I see a football helmet. I see a gold record.
That's a Rudy Rudiger helmet. That's an AC/DC gold record up there because he used to run out to AC/DC all the time. You see this thing right above my head right here? This thing right here. And it's actually pretty good timing. That yellow and blue action right there is a row of tickets from the very first World Baseball Classic back in 2006, which I was lucky enough to be a part of, and signed out of there to become the eventual Atlanta Brave that I was. So that's a ticket block from every game that was in the first round of the original WBC. That's pretty cool.
Now, I think that's really cool, and that's kind of where I wanted to start. I want to unpack your whole story because it's just fascinating and it's really fun. But the Team Australia is moving on to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Have you coached?
We're there.
Have you coached some of these guys?
Yeah, there's about 8 guys from my team that I manage back home in Melbourne that are on that team. I know every one of the guys that are on that team. We've either played against each other or with each other over the last 20 years or so. There's a few younger guys that are in there now that I've never had the chance to play with, but I've certainly coached against them or seen them play. It's just so exciting, man.
Man, oh man, oh man. You're going to be watching tomorrow, Cuba, Australia. Paint the picture. Nervous? You're going to be at your house?
No. I'm going to be at my house. I'm actually heading down to Florida tomorrow for spring training. I start my spring training radio and TV block down there. So I'll be up early. Take you back to the last WBC. We lost to Cuba 4-3. I pitched in that game. I threw 2 innings of shutout baseball. We happened to give up 1 grand slam, which were all the 4 runs that they'd scored. So from that perspective, you got to look at it and say, okay, we were 1 pitch away from taking down the Cubans back then. They've been a force in international baseball for 40 years. So I just think now's a perfect opportunity for us to take advantage of momentum and a slightly less competitive Cuban team that they've put together over the course of the years.
Oh man, it's going to be fun to watch. I've been loving. I mean, obviously, Team USA, the big names, but just the energy that comes from a World Baseball Classic, from all the different countries, the fans. I mean, the first game I watched, you've got fans in the stands with the flags and horns, and I remember going to San Diego a few years ago, and fans from the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, they've got tambourines, and they're. I mean, it is a lively atmosphere everywhere you go, and it almost feels like Major League Baseball, you're playing in a library. Do you feel like the World Baseball Classic vibe is transferring over to our game in Major League Baseball?
I think it is, and I think it's happening slower than what a lot of people would maybe like, but I think it's going to get here eventually. You saying that, man, like when I came over here in 2006 for the World Baseball Classic, the most I'd ever pitched in front of was a couple of family and friends, maybe 200, 250 people would show up to a grand final one day or something. And I show up to Orlando where we're hosting Venezuela, Dominican Republic, and Italy. And it's like, it's a chaos from the minute you get there. They are drumming, they are yelling, and they don't stop. So that was intimidating in itself. That kind of energy is unmatched. And I think that's why a lot of the guys that won with the US team in the last one got a sense of what it can be like. I'm not saying Major League Baseball is boring by any means. 162 games over 180 days. It can just get a bit of the same. You fire this kind of energy at someone like a Hosmer or a Danny Duffy or those guys, or whoever it is, and it just injects you with just passion, and you see what brought you to the game in the first place.
Yep, I saw it with Trout last night. It's like as soon as he hit that bomb and he comes back to home and he's fist bumping Mookie Betts, he gave this big salute and is like, I haven't seen that much emotion from Mike Trout ever. So,
Right.
And this is quite a grand stage, even for Mike Trout. He's only been in the playoffs, a handful of games. So I think Nolan Arenado's really fired up. I think they're all feeding off of this vibe, and I can't wait till we get down to it. You got Shohei doing his thing, and Team Australia, man, love it.
It's also the Czech team. It's the Great Britain team.
Yeah.
Both teams have got to win. Like that's so big for their nations, especially the Czech team, because China was unfortunate. They didn't win a game. That means that Czech automatically qualifies for the next World Baseball Classic, which means in a nation like that, government funding, junior baseball programs, it just means that it's expanding in countries that it needs to expand. I was lucky enough to go and play in the Czech Republic when I retired. I was running away from retirement rather than doing anything else, but I went over there. My buddy was a pitching coach who's now the national team pitching coach for Czech. But I went over there and pitched in the Czech, and they love it. They absolutely love the game of baseball. They're big, strong kids. They don't have much going on around them. They're hard workers. They just want to get there and work their tails off, and you can see it. And the respect that the Japan team had for them as well.
It's so fun to see electricians and plumbers, and you yourself. I read a little blurb from you, and I think this was from the 2006 World Baseball Classic when you were playing, and this is kind of where you got your big break, where the Braves saw you and signed you. A real estate agent hands it off to a pharmaceutical rep to face Maglio Ordonez. I mean, you're seeing that daily here on TV, where the electrician is striking out Juan Soto. I mean, a 21-year-old from Team Nicaragua just signed with the Tigers like yesterday.
I was watching that live.
So was I, and I was like, this is fascinating. Juan Soto going down, J-Rod going down, and this 21-year-old gets signed by the Tigers. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful. I do want to get to that point of your career, 06 World Baseball Classic, but we've got to go back to the beginning. Chopper, you still with us? You still you got front flips going? We working backside opposite field line drives?
Front flip. We're going opposite field right now. We're actually picking up baseballs. I just surpassed the 1 millionth ball picked up, so it's a big momentous
Congrats.
milestone. Thank you.
That's
Thank you,
huge.
big time.
Before
big.
we go to the very beginning with Pistol Pete, I just gave him that nickname. That's not his real nickname.
Love that.
Do you have anything as far as this year World Baseball Classic to button up this conversation?
I love it. It's one of those things where, and Peter touched on it, like the season's so long and monotonous that having that level of energy, that's an energy suck, right? So like you really can't get that up for a 162 season. You see it a little bit in the playoffs, but even the playoffs at the major league level, they don't match the WBC. It's that World Cup kind of atmosphere. But it's super cool to see, and it's way more exciting for the fans. But no, I love it. It's we were talking about it last night, me and my son. Like this could be a spring training game, but these guys are in these crazy moments with fans dressed up and really cool. Love the World Baseball Classic.
I think it's like the Ryder Cup, like in golf. There's just a different energy. Even when you watch Tiger Woods play in the Ryder Cup, like he's way more fired up and vocal than he would be in the Masters. So it's not just you. It's not even just your team. Like Pete said, I mean, it's your country, and it means so much to all these guys. So I'm fired up.
Quick shout out, Peter. Quick shout out at the Real Bubba Mustaine says what's up. So that's a big deal for you. So
wow, and was that your cleanup batter?
That's our leadoff hitter. Yeah, super handsome young gentleman, junior.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Peter, you're welcome.
Is he more of an Aaron Judge or a Juan Pierre leadoff hitter?
He's actually a combination of the two. I mean, Bubba Mustaine, use your imagination. That's his name. So Bubba Mustaine, I mean, it doesn't get much more show. So you're welcome. I'm gonna mute, boys. Keep rolling. Let's do it.
Keep banging it out with the horsehide. How does a young lad in beautiful Australia fall in love with baseball? What got you?
I was fortunate enough to have a dad that got to travel, and he came over to America for a conference, and he was over here and he went to see a game at the Astrodome. So he came back with the love of baseball. We found a T-ball, I guess, organization right around the corner from the house, started playing T-ball. He was my coach. We fell in love with it. I gradually moved on to baseball, as everybody does. I never made a representative team until I was 15 years old. There was the under 12s I missed, under 14s I missed, under 16s I missed. Finally made it when it came to the under 18 team. And my first year on the under 18 team, I was playing shortstop and pitching, and I was found by a scout by the name of Howie Norsetter with the Minnesota Twins, and he wanted to sign me as a pitcher.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
I mean, there was no Little League World Series for you. There was really no pony other than Dad. Was there a coach? Was there a mentor that made you fall in love with the game even more leading up to 18?
Yep. So we had a thing called, once I developed a little bit of skill, there was a West Australian Baseball Academy that was from the age of probably 14 to 17 or 18. We'd go there, train every Tuesday, Thursday nights, and there was a man by the name of Andrew. Don Kyle. Andrew is his son. Don Kyle just filled me with so much confidence when other people were sort of, because I wasn't a troubled kid, but I was one of the regular high energy kids and I see it in my own youngest daughter now. I was just everywhere. Like I wanted to be in everything. I wanted to be everywhere, and I was hard to sort of muzzle, I guess you'd say. And he just let me be me, and it eventually allowed me to branch into. I had a stutter when I was a kid too, so now that I'm actually working in media, like there's that kind of impact from a coach at that age can change your whole life.
Absolutely. We had Nick Swisher on. He said the same thing. He had a coach. He was just so full of energy, and he didn't know where to channel it. And he had a mentor that let him be him. Kike Hernandez, same thing. There's just so much energy in this 12-year-old body, and they don't know how to channel it. But if you have a mentor that can let you be you, but then kind of just prod you along in that right direction, you get picked up by the Twins, and you you lasted 2 years in that organization, and in quotes, you self-proclaim yourself, you just weren't ready.
No, maturity.
Unpack that. What do you mean by that?
Well, it was the first time out of home. I was 17 years old. I've been put into a hotel with a roommate. I've never lived with anyone but my parents before. I'm going to the baseball field every single day, and it matters. You go into the field every day, and it's not just messing around training. You're going over there, and there's 150 kids that are getting work in, and there's a clear path to where you want to be, but it's miles and miles and miles away.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't ready to commit. I wasn't ready to put the work in. I was talented enough to be there, but I wasn't committed enough by any stretch of imagination, and was released after 2.5 years.
I can't imagine being that age. I felt like coming from under a rock in North Carolina to Brown University, where I went, and now it's the complete opposite. I'm meeting people of different cultures, ethnicities, from different places, and I was just like this is life.
Right.
Welcome to the world. I can't imagine having to try and show up to a baseball field every day. Those are the formative years for me, where I made mistakes and I learned from my failures.
Yeah.
You get released by the Twins at age 20. I would probably have done the same thing. The ages of 20 to 28 are fascinating for me. There's concreter, there's pool plumber, there's pest control salesman, the number one lift chair salesman in Melbourne, folks. I mean, that's a true story, right?
Absolutely.
Pharmaceutical rep, and a pitcher in the Chinese Professional Baseball League. That's a lot to pack into your 20s. But the through line was men's league baseball.
Yes,
and was it
that was
and you
the
were
consistent.
Right, and you were not just a player; you were a coach.
At some points throughout this, I would play both winter league and summer league. I would coach sometimes both, sometimes none. Still had an absolute passion for the game of baseball. Would watch all the playoffs whenever we got it in Australia. But just continued to play it at the highest level that I could. I'd still play for the Claxton Shield teams when I was selected, but I'd stop pitching because of the multiple injuries to my back. So I figured that might have been the reason. I'm just going to have to quit pitching. Started playing first base and hitting instead. And become a pretty decent hitter. Actually was offered a contract when I was 23 with the Colorado Rockies to come over and try my luck at hitting. But I knew I wasn't going to be a good enough hitter to eventually make it to the big leagues. So I decided to stay and continued my working dream. And then kept working my odd jobs, landed as a pharmaceutical rep, and was doing that job when I came over to pitch for Australia in the WBC. So I had to call him and say, hey, listen, luckily he was involved with Australian baseball, so it wasn't that tough of a call, but it was still a call that I had to make, and it was a pretty exciting call. I said, look, I know I was only supposed to be here for 2 weeks, and I took annual leave to be here, but I'm going to give this another crack. The Braves want me to come and play, and I'm going to try. So
that's amazing.
Crazy, right?
So you got paid leave from your pharmaceutical rep job to go to the World Baseball Classic. I mean, that story is amazing. And then you pitch well, you strike out, guys like Maglio Ordonez and big names. So the Braves see you. Do they offer you some big contract to show up at spring training?
So it was the next day. JJ Picola and Dayton Moore walked me around the facility, because we're in Orlando, which is where Braves spring training was. They walked me around the facility. They showed me everywhere. They showed me where I'd be living. They showed me everything you could possibly. And I was sold. Let's be honest. It was basically, give me enough so that I don't set myself back when I go back home, and I'm in, is effectively what it was. And I ended up signing for $30,000, which was $10,000 more than I'd originally signed back in 1996. So I come over. I was down in AAA. Went through spring training. I came over and pitched in a couple of backup games for Bobby Cox. did okay, I guess. He must have liked what he saw, but I went back to the minor league camp and I eventually broke with the Richmond Braves. And yeah, we opened up in Richmond, and I was there about 4 or 5 days, and I got a call. They'd opened up on the West Coast, and one of the pitchers got hurt, and they were flying back, and I had to meet him in Atlanta.
Man, that's so cool. And it all happened because of this kind of leap of faith. Like I've got a great I got a job, I'm safe, but I still have this dream. Was there pushback from family, from friends? Like, what are you doing here?
I have to give a lot of credit to my ex-wife. At the time, we had one child, and I called her and we basically had the conversation. It was like, look, I failed at this once 8.5 years ago. I have another opportunity. If I don't do this, I don't know what happens afterwards. I'm going to be constantly thinking about what could have happened. Obviously, people over here seem to think that there's a chance that I could do something pretty special. Otherwise, I wouldn't be offering a 27-year-old that's just rolled out of bed throwing mid-90s from the sidearm all of a sudden. They're like, okay, we'll give this guy a go. So I want to try this. And she said, yeah, look, you got to do it. You have to do it. So
man, it's a lot like the movie The Rookie, where 8 years later you roll out of bed and you're throwing mid-90s. I mean, were you throwing bullpens while in between pharmaceutical rep trips, or what? What do you attest that that's that too? How did you stay in that kind of shape?
I think a lot of it was to do with because I was around the game all the time. I was constantly throwing BP. I don't want to steal the theme from the movie The Rookie, but it legitimately was what happened. I was always playing catch, always showing off my arm strength, and I got stronger by hitting too. I was working different muscles, so I guess I was developing bigger muscles, and I got released at 20. I'm not even fully grown yet. So between 20 and 27, I guess I'd matured and got strong, and I found an arm angle that worked. I was always thrown over the top, and I just dropped down because I wanted to use the same mechanics that I'd been using swinging, because I knew that I got through that with my back okay. I didn't want to try and go over the top again and potentially risk another injury. So sidearm arm angle, found a release point. I just grip it with 4 seams and let it rip. I wasn't trying to do anything until I got over here. I had to try and figure out other things, but I just toy with pitches and mess with things. And it was such a fun period of my life, because I went from, this was never the plan. I had no intentions of having another crack at Major League Baseball ever, because I knew that the chances of a guy from Australia getting a second chance were basically none. So for me to go from 0 chance at all to, oh, there's a 5% chance. Oh, hold on, there's some Japanese scouts and Taiwanese scouts looking around. Hold on, you're facing cheap a lot of Marines who are in the Japanese big leagues. So you've done well against them, and then you do great against the Chinese Taipei national team. Everything starts coming like this, and this, and then I go to the Classic, and I actually walked way more people than I ever did. But call that nerves, call that whatever it was. Luckily, the Braves saw enough in me that they gave me a shot. But the development in that first year, look at my numbers in AAA of 2006, and they were horrendous.
What do you did you have a pitching coach there in Richmond, somebody that kind of got you on the right track or let you be you?
It was honestly not that people in Richmond didn't help me, but it was the interactions with Roger McDowell, who was the Braves pitching coach at the time. He was also a sinker slider guy, so I was able to bounce stuff off him pretty good, and I was so raw. And he rubbed some people the wrong way, but for me, it's exactly what I needed. And I needed someone to sort of just be like firm and look, this is what you should try. Do this, do this, do this. So, he was great. Taught me to dial it back a lot. And then you can reach down and grab it when you need it, that sort of thing. But yeah, he was instrumental in those first few years. It's tough because of the arm angle that I do have. There's not a lot of people that throw from that arm angle. So you're having to really find a niche and ask questions to people that have done it before, because it's very rotational. It's the throwing mechanics are the same when you think about it, but the mechanics of the actual pitching windup are completely different.
Well, from a hitter's perspective, you know, the guys that just I struggled with the most were just had a different kind of delivery. It's not your usual just circular and fluid motion. I really liked facing those guys, but it was a herky jerky Justin Verlander or just somebody from a different angle that it really put me on my heels. It's a huge deal. And I mean, you led baseball in appearances at the age of 39, which is super cool. Like I own the hit by pitch record at Brown University. I hang my hat on that record. You have to hang your hat.
Story?
True story. Yeah. Career hit by pitch record. You know, when I introduce myself, I'm James Lowe, 2018 Jim Nance Sound-Alike contest winner on the Dan Patrick Show and the hit by pitch record holder at Brown University.
What else is there?
There's nothing. There's nothing. I mean, I have a trivia contest that you and Chopper will face off against at the very end, and it involves that stat of you know, at the age of 39. Chopper, are you with us? You got any questions on Pistol Pete and his epic 12-year career in the bigs?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about, well, a couple of things. First of all, I think that we talk a lot about just when you handle adversity the right way, you kind of get rewarded oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes. And I just appreciate the fact that he had the self-awareness to know, hey, I just wasn't ready yet for the freedom and the, you know, being in a hotel, and you don't get a lot of money, but you get some money. You get $20 a day, where that could get weird pretty quick for a young kid who doesn't know how to handle money.
Yep.
So I'm proud of the fact that he had that ability to be like, hey, dude, that was on me. He didn't leave when he got released saying I got screwed and had this bitter taste in his mouth. He kept the love of the game. He took some ownership, and then he was rewarded for it. So that's for our listeners, especially the players. There's a powerful lesson right there. I'm loading the team van as I'm talking. You love to see it. But no, so I'm just proud of that. And then too, like you said, ball game, like I guarantee he was an intimidating figure. 3/4 lefty, like I'm a left-handed hitter. I don't want that at bat, you know, and he probably misses arm side every once in a while. So that's just a really uncomfortable at bat. So good on Peter for just continuing to grind and keep that love of the game. And then he was rewarded. The game rewarded him. So really cool, Peter. That's a really cool story. I did not know that. I already liked you, but I like you even more now knowing that. I don't have a question. I'm just ready to get some trivia going, to be honest.
Oh my gosh. Are you driving the team van today?
Oh yeah, bud. Oh yeah, bud. See, it's an early day. So typically I have a coach who drives the team van, but he also works for UPS. So we're talking
9:30 over there, is it? Right? And you were up there.
Yeah, we got an 11:30 game. It's spring break.
Perfect.
Yeah. So he couldn't get paid leave like you got from pharmaceutical sales to go play in the WBC. He had to work his job. So that means I'm driving the van.
Before we get to the trivia contest, in that playing career, a lot of fun teammates. I mean, Smoltzy, Chipper, Huddy, who Chopper, we got to get on the podcast. DeRosa, McCann, Kershaw, Greinke, Mattingly, Bobby Cox. They managed you. Do you have a smartest teammate in that 12-year big league career? Who was the guy you needed advice from?
It's Chris Young, CY, now the GM of the Texas Rangers. We played together in Kansas City. And yeah, you could just tell by every conversation that he was listening to me on a deeper level that I could even imagine getting to.
I'm writing that down. Listening on a deeper level. That is my tip of the day for marriage. How to save your marriage. Listen on a deeper level.
There you go.
And do that with my kids as well. That is a big deal. I faced that guy too. I think he went to Princeton, and I was at Brown. And basically he's 7 foot tall, so he was in my cheek by the time he released the ball. Didn't do very well against him. What about the kindest teammate in that 12-year career?
Oh wow. There has been a lot of kind teammates. We're going way back. Honestly, Tim Hudson may be it, because when I met him, his there were certain guys in that clubhouse that looked at me like I was some sort of freak act. Like, who is this guy that we just signed to? He's going to help us somehow. Come on. Like, that was the initial feeling from some of the guys. And it was never a feeling that I got from Tim, even though he was a superstar at that point. He always made me feel extremely welcome. Other guys did too, but Tim and I still remain close to this day. So he was probably one of the kindest and so generous with his time, with everything he does.
Chopper,
I can second that. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Chopper. You know him.
I can second that with Huddy. An absolute heart of gold. Just the talent's off the charts, but like the heart's even better than the talent. He was the guy where after my first year, we won the World Series in 2014, and I was renting in the East Bay, and Huddy's like, "Hey, like before you do that, like just stay at my house in the marina, $14,000 a month house." And he just gave it to me for the summer. He's like, "Hey, dude," or not for the summer, but for the off season. He's like, "Hey, I already paid for the year. Like, take it. All I need you to do in return is just to drive my 7 Series BMW once every 2 weeks and keep the gas."
Dang it.
From going stale. So like that's Huddy. And it was, you know, some people do things and they expect something in return. For Huddy, it's like, hey, let me and my wife bless you guys and your family. And that's just who they are. They still have their foundation where they raise a ton of money. Yeah. Huddy's he's a good old boy. He's one of the guys. He's coaching at Auburn right now, and Auburn's really lucky to have him. He does some stuff for the Braves too, right, Peter? Does he do any broadcasting?
He doesn't do any broadcasting. Well, he may this year, but he hasn't done any to this date. He comes back for a lot of the alumni events. But yeah, I actually stayed at one of his places during spring training one year too. So yeah, he's beautiful.
Beautiful. That's a perfect word. Huddy is beautiful. Concur.
Love that. Well, what about your funniest teammate? And you know, I think we have the same sense of humor kind of taste. So who you got?
I'm actually the answer to this for a lot of people, but I'm
Yes,
going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and say it's a really David Ross, now manager of your Chicago Cubs.
Bang.
Quite possibly could be the driest, funniest, quickest. He and I together, I think I'm outmatched.
Sneaky pull right there. And what seems to be different personalities, kind of. I mean, you seem a little more Lloyd Christmas to his Harry Dunn.
Well, that's quite possible. Yes,
I mean, that's maybe the best dynamic in history. I like that. Yeah, my Cubbies. What do you think? I mean, they got a lot of new names there. Are they going to do anything?
It's the favorite part of the year because everybody thinks they can still do something. Everybody thinks they're a chance. Right now, they're looking at that. They're looking at the schedule. They think, well, look, we just take 2 out of 3 from then. We go 3 out of 4. Maybe we split against those guys, and all of a sudden we've got a 2-game lead in August. That's where everybody's at. But I think they'll be fine. Dansby's a big pickup. Dansby's going to be the centerpiece there for a while. I've watched him blossom into the big leaguer that he is now. Leaps and bounds he's grown in the last 18 months. Married now, you know, like power couple of Chicago. I don't know. Things could be going good.
Yep. I like the addition there. And with Nico Horner turning double plays with him, Nico is he's the gamer. When I look at him, he's a gamer. And then Dansby, I mean, he doesn't miss games. He plays 162 every single year. I like what I see. A friend of the pod, Jan Gomes, behind the plate. Do you know Jan at all?
I don't know him. Brazilian, right?
Yep. First Brazilian to play. He played in the World Baseball Classic, I believe, for Brazil, and first Brazilian All-Star. I think that's his claim to fame.
Just real quick, just while you touch on that, because that reminds me, just to jump back to the WBC real quick, and something that you got to remember is that there's qualifiers that lead into the WBC. There's a ton of countries that you haven't even mentioned or seen yet. Brazil was one of them. Was at the last WBC, but wasn't able to qualify this time. So, you know, there are going to be nations from Africa. There's going to be nations from Europe. There's going to be nations from all over the place that are eventually going to be playing in this thing 10, 15, 20 years down the track. So you want to talk about a world game. I think we're heading in the right direction.
Love it. I love everything about it. Best golfer. You treated me to golf. Folks, Peter Moylan, when I was doing my Atlanta Sandlots, I just called him up because he knows his way around that town. and he called about 8 different country clubs to get me on, found me a spot, paid for my round of golf, Chopper. I show up and, you know, it's like the red carpet had been rolled out. Who's the best golfer in your career?
I have only managed to play one round of golf with John Smoltz, and it was pretty impressive. And I know that he's got the history. He's played in tournaments. He's tried out for the senior tour, all the rest of it. So I know he's great. But the best person that I've seen play is Jason Vargas.
Ooh.
There's a name from left field. Vargy is as cool a cucumber as you've ever seen. He is just, the swing is dialed, and he's been retired for a couple of years now. So he's dialed in a little bit more. But yeah, he was like, I've played with professionals before, and he was just a click under what it was like to play with a guy that's actually played on tour.
Beautiful. Chopper, what about you? You've played with some Dodgers and some Giants. Who's the best? I know Will Smith hits at 400
Will
yards.
Smith. Will Smith's the best. Vargy, though, I know Vargy really well. He's like a really close friend of our, basically my wife's brother. So Vargy, that's a great family, great dude. He's living out in Goodyear, Arizona, and yeah, he is calm. Yeah, he's a calm, cool cat. So, but no, Will Smith, the catcher from the Dodgers, not the pitcher who was on the Astros at the end of the year last year in the Braves. A funny story about the Will Smiths. I once texted the lineup to the wrong Will Smith before a Dodger game, and the pitcher said, "Hey, bud, I think you got the wrong Will Smith." I said, "Well, hey, have a great day, buddy. Love you." Pretty great.
That's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Also, flex for having both those guys in.
Yeah.
Well, and you want to talk about the actor as well? Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I don't have the actor. Freshman spell. Joking.
That'd be a super
subtle flex. That would be a super flex.
Where are you at right now? Are you at a stoplight, Chopper?
Yeah, I am. I'm actually in traffic right now. Rare traffic on Oracle. You hate to see it. Looks like there might be a little accident, maybe some road work, but we'll power through it. We're gonna get through this.
The players are being super quiet. Like, I mean, they're being very dialed in. Are they studying?
Christian school. Yeah, they're locked in right now. They're all reading Proverbs right now. We're trying to lock in or get some wisdom before the game.
Let's jump. I want to jump into this trivia because this will take us down some nice conversational paths as well. In that 12-year career, I mean, Bobby Cox, I mean, there's got to be a billion stories there. Before we jump in to trivia contest, Chopper versus Pistol Pete, do you have a very memorable Bobby Cox memory or just an experience with that guy?
The real one that I can say that there was I like to get to the clubhouse pretty early, and he was always there before I got there, obviously. And we're in Pittsburgh one day, and this is the first time I found out that he did this, but we're in Pittsburgh one day and he's walking around with socks on and he's trying to find his shoes. He's got 6 clubhouse managers. They're all trying to look around. They're Mizuno's. They're all yelling it's Mizuno's. And a kid comes running out sweating. Mr. Cox, are these it? And he turns around and he looks at the kid and he says, "No, they're not mine. Mine have got nails on them," because he wore cleats every single day that he managed baseball games. And I didn't know that until he was telling that kid to go find his cleats. It was hilarious. Everybody was laughing. But yeah, I had no idea that at his age, he wore Mizuno spikes for every single game that he managed.
Incredible.
Wow. That is showtime. Chopper.
I'm sorry there must be a swearing warning. I apologize.
No.
Oh no.
That's a quote.
That's a quote from Bobby Cox, and I can imagine he dropped a bunch of those. Chopper, you had Boch, you had Doc. Any guys wearing nails on the coaching staff?
No way. Doc was wearing Kobe's, probably 7 or 8 different varieties of Kobe's. He and I are very similar in that. You have the Nike Elite hookups. So Doc was doing it right. And cool thing about Doc, talk about generous. He would do that for the whole staff, where even if you got free stuff from Nike, usually you'd have to pay the taxes on it. Doc would pay the taxes on it for his staff. So we all had a couple $1,000s worth of 6 shoe allowance that Doc would pay for, which was pretty special of him. But no nails, no nails from any of the skippers I saw. Boach had them size 15 New Balances that he had to stretch his foot into those things. They were, God bless those shoes. He had a big head and big shoes.
8.5 head, I was going to say.
Yes.
Just that quick 30-second Bochy story, Chop, about your name. So good.
Boach once walked up to me. I was in the kitchen. I frequented the lunchroom, and he walked in one day. He's like, "Chops, what do you got?" And I'm like, "What's up, Boach? What do you got?" Hey, why do they call you Chops? Well, that's my last name, Bruce. It's Chop. And then he was gone. I don't think he heard the answer, to be honest.
That's beautiful.
I'm not certain he heard the answer.
My goodness.
What do you got?
He had no idea what your name was.
Nope, didn't care. Wasn't on his radar. That's okay. Under the radar is a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Golly.
Okay, here's how it works.
All right.
Chops.
What do you got?
I'll ask the question, and just fire at will, and you can answer it a few times, 3, 4, until you get it right. This is Pistol Pete trivia from his playing days with the Braves.
Am I supposed to answer my own questions? I am, right?
Yes,
this is not just Chopper. This is
you're trying to answer it before he does.
okay. If I don't know this is kind of tough on me, but okay, cool.
This I'm digging pretty deep here, but I want to start with when you're on the mound, a 12-year career. What batter had the most hits against you?
Oh, that's great. I'm gonna go. I think Ryan Zimmerman.
Correct. Chopper, what was your guess going to be?
I was going to wait for him to answer, and then I was assuming a right-handed hitter. I just can't imagine him being uncomfortable with a bat for a lefty. But I was going to just really make sure I had the right era.
Chop, I'm right-handed.
Honest.
He's a righty. Yeah.
Submarine right-hander.
I had you as a lefty. All right.
Just seen the reverse splits of my.
Hey, Boach.
Good thing I did my homework. Chops, what do you got?
Hey, Boach. Hey, Boach, what arm do you throw with?
Hey, and Zimmerman had the most success? Okay. Wow,
oh, my God. And he had an opening night, Nationals Park, 2008, ESPN, Sunday Night Baseball, Peter Moylan, 10th inning, 1-1 fastball. Posited to the left field bleachers for the freaking franchise opening moment. I'm on every single Christmas card that the Nationals send out.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Ryan Zimmerman is correct. 1-0. Chops.
Lock in, Chops. What are we doing? He's a righty and you're calling him a lefty. What are we doing?
Get
Ronnie, get him out of there.
Chops.
I'm out of the game with that mistake. Could happen.
Question number 2. Who did you walk the most? What batter? This guy's known for his strikeouts and his walks.
Is he right-handed or left-handed?
He's a lefty.
Does he play did he used to play for the Mets?
Murphy, Daniel Murphy.
I know him more as a Cincinnati Red.
Votto's not right then? Oh, I know. Adam Dunn. Bang, 1-1. Let's go.
Correct. It's Adam Dunn.
Really? I didn't realize I faced him that much.
You walked him 4 times. Adam Dunn. Yeah, I mean, that's a big burly lefty. How did you attack that guy?
I wouldn't have. I would have walked him, just like it said on the paper. That was if there was a right-handed batter without a chance of a pinch hit coming up behind him. I was walking Adam Dunn without even looking at him.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. Because he's a right-handed pitcher, Chops.
Yeah, that's just so you know, Chop. That's but anyway, I did actually remember facing Adam Dunn. Adam Dunn was my first ever spring training matchup. When I signed with the Dodgers in 2013, I'm trying to make the team. First pitch I throw, off speed pitch, Adam Dunn hit it about 700 feet straight away center field, and So any wonder I walked in.
Strong man.
The self-deprecating humor of yourself. I mean, your teammates just had to love those moments. I mean, deep down, obviously didn't want to give up the run, but I'm sure you gave him some laughs.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was there for. I was entertainment value. Occasionally get a guy out, but I was there to make sure the clubhouse was fun.
And Chopper, you were the same way. Chopper would give dig me sessions to Kike Hernandez and Jock Peterson in the dugout. You know, Chopper was the BP pitcher and the fungo hitter and the video analyst guy, but he was really just the clubhouse entertainment. I mean, there's something to that. There's a reason the Giants and the Dodgers made a bunch of World Series. There's the reason the Braves are the Braves. They've got entertaining clubhouse glue factors like yourselves.
Gotta have it. The long
Inevitable.
season, you can't have that. Yeah, you can't have that WBC energy all the time. So you got to have guys that are willing to carry that torch throughout the year and use humor. And I did all kinds of dares. I bet Peter did the same. It's one of those things where if the boys need something, you got to give the boys what they want.
I'm going to send you a photo, Coach. And just while we're having this conversation, carry on with the trivia.
I'll put Chopper on this thread as well. Question number 3, as the score is tied 1-1. Most punchies. Who'd you strike out the most?
Dan Ugler.
Bang, ownage.
Hey, high fastball with that swing has to play. Has to play.
We just faced each other so much when he was with the Marlins, and we actually we joke that the common line is you're only as good as your last at bat.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that his last at bat, he hit me for a wall scraping home run, 317 feet down the left field line at Turner Field. So he owns me. I got to give him credit. He owns me, even though I did punch him out more than anyone.
Strong lower half.
Strong everywhere.
Yeah.
Popeye biceps.
Yep.
He had the most ABs as well against you. Zimmerman right there. Who's tied for second all time in ABs? Ugla had 19.
Against me?
Yeah. Zimmerman is third, but these two guys, they had 18 career ABs against you.
NL East?
Miguel Cabrera?
Incorrect. We're looking NL East here.
NL East only. Okay. Was it a Marlin or the Philly? Was it a Jason Worth?
Nope.
Ooh, I like
think Met.
Oh, David Wright.
David Wright.
Yep. David Wright.
Yep.
And then when did you face Hanley so much?
Marlins.
Hanley was on the Marlins. Yeah, he was on the Marlins.
Yeah.
Before we went to
that whole lineup. Chop, this isn't for you, but that whole lineup was right-handed. So lucky as a lefty, I was able to get.
I love that. Hey, that's the best thing about you. You mess something up, and then you're gonna wear that, and I love it. I deserve to wear that.
That's Kangaroo Court. That's baseball clubhouse
that's
101.
Kangaroo Court all day.
Yeah. Dan Ugla, you punched him out. You had ownership. You actually went 0 for 7 in the bigs as a hitter. Is this right? And but you got on base one time. Do you know who walked you?
It was Gallagher from the Cubs.
Yeah, Sean Gallagher.
There you go.
Sean Gallagher walked you 0 for 7. You faced
Fuzz too.
Cole Hamels.
He punched me out on 3-2. I took him to 3-2. But just couldn't catch up to high fastball. Laid off some good cambios down the bottom of the zone, and then just
he's got a good changeup.
Couldn't get to the top of the zone with a fastball at 94.
You were a good hitter. You actually, the Rockies wanted to pick you up as a hitter, but just put the average man in the batter's box there 8 times as you did in the show. What's it like?
Look, it shows me, it actually gave me a little, I didn't have a lot of at-bats towards the end, obviously, but earlier on, it showed me just how hard hitting was, especially at that level. And I know these hitters are superior athletes. They're unbelievable. Their bat-to-ball skill is just something that blows me away all the time. So if anything, it showed me that, hey, have a little bit more faith in what you've got. This is tough to do. You don't have to be perfect all the time. They're going to make mistakes as well. So just go out there and do what you can.
Man, it's the perspective. Like, think of it in terms of art. Like, as an actor, you're thinking about it one way, but if you get behind the camera and you start directing, you look at it a whole different way. And when you start thinking as a pitcher, how the hitter's thinking, when you're thinking as a coach, how the player is thinking, man, when you get to the other side of the camera there, I think you become a whole different animal. Chopper, yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
I also picked up a lot when I was player coach with the Braves in 15, because I heard myself telling these guys what I wanted them to do and relating it to myself and thinking, okay, well, don't be afraid to do it yourself, silly. So yeah, it's so true. Like something like Roger McDowell would say to me, your best count is 2-0. I was like, what? He goes, if you have runners on, or even without runners on, and you get a hitter in a 2-0 count, say there's a runner at second base, he wants to be a hero, tries to get big, swing gets a bit bigger, you can throw a sinker middle, you're going to get a ground ball 8 times out of 10.
Yep. And he's going to
like,
pull it. And he's not going to get the guy over.
Exactly. Yep. His eyes get big. You think he thinks you've missed location, where in actual fact, you've just thrown one down middle and he's rolled over. It's great.
And that takes the pressure off you when it's 0-0. It's
right.
not the end of the world, right? And it frees you up a little bit. That's coaching 101. I mean, this podcast is for coaches and for parents that are coaching kids. And if you can give a kid freedom, if you can give a teenager, a high schooler, Chopper, how are you going to give your kids freedom today before the game?
Well, no, and I totally agree with that. My guys, it's like in those moments where you want to hump up, take a little off. And that's kind of the play. The hitters will get themselves out for sure. But for us, it's just about trying to have that spirit of response. And that's what we preach, is like, it doesn't really matter what happens. You get behind 2-0, how are you going to respond? You strike out and go make a play in the field. Just see how we're going to respond individually and as a group. And that's what we preach. And that's what we're looking to do today for sure. But I totally agree, Peter. I think sometimes, especially pitchers, they nibble too much. It's like, dude, it's hard to hit, especially when you've got the kind of stuff you have in the big leagues. Just challenge a guy, dude. But really, honestly, take a little off instead of trying to hump up. Sometimes when you hump up, your ball flattens out. Take advantage of those big swings. Most guys, their head pulls a little bit and they're trying to hit it 8,000 feet in those hitters counts. That's, for me, I try to tell our guys, and I told myself this in pro ball, was stay short, see contact. I got into that 2-0 count. I'd step out, take a quick deep breath, and just try to take actually a little bit less, take that 85% swipe. And look for the opposite field gap, and that really helped me in those hitters counts.
I watched Maddox and Glavine pitch a ton, and I saw a lot of 2-0 ground balls to shortstop. Were you ever on the same squad as them, Pete?
I was on the same squad as Smoltz, Glavine, not Maddox.
Yeah.
I watched Glav do his work a little bit with the Mets early on, but then he came back to us in 2009 as well.
Well, I mean, did you take any notes on Smoltz and Glavine? What take us behind the curtain there? What'd you learn?
I learned that there are people in the big leagues that are better than other people in the big leagues. Not everybody's at the same level.
There's levels to it. That's so funny.
Oh yeah, there's superstars
so
for a
funny.
reain, and there's placeholders. And I felt like most of the time I was a 14-year placeholder. But no, I'm kidding. I had a great career. I'm not going to say that. But there are guys that are so gifted and that have just been touched by somebody or something. And yeah, but you also see that I worked hard, but I wasn't a hard worker. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I worked hard because I had to. I'm not a hard worker, but I will do what has to be done. I won't enjoy it. There's guys out there that, like Alex Gordon, Whit Merrifield, these guys that have just got routines that'll blow your mind. From the minute they get there at 1 p.m., they're going until the game's over. And then when they're not going, they're thinking about it. Whereas I'm not that way. I love the game of baseball more than anything, but I'm not like that.
Oh yeah, Gordon. Yeah, there's stories of him, diving for balls in BP, and I got to meet Whit Merrifield. Shout out North Carolina boy. I mean, that guy's got a great story too. Just
oh yeah,
digging in the minors forever, and then leads baseball in hits 2 years in a row. Miggy, you faced Miggy 14 times. He went 6 for 14 against you. I think Venezuela is inspired to win this whole thing to give him a great send off.
Yeah.
Chopper, pizza righty. So righty versus righty. How did you battle that guy? What, I mean, was it just pitch backwards?
No, it was just pitch and hope, honestly. I felt like I guess he hit me for a home run to the Fountains last time I faced him in Kansas City. Another guy that gets to ride off into the sunset with success against me. But you could never go at him the same way. And that was where I was limited because I only had 2 pitches. I had to invent a changeup to throw to Ryan Zimmerman to eventually get him out. But with Miggy, he never got off his own plan. You could tell that he obviously was trying to stay right center with his approach with every swing, but he would also truck you and bridge you with a fastball down and in that was 3 inches off the inside corner. So his ability, again, I say bat to ball, but his hand-eye, his bat to ball, and you never really saw the kinds of massive adjustments that you see a lot of guys make these days. You'll see a guy come back with his hands at like lower. He was consistent basically throughout his whole career, and he just raked.
There's some similarities there. There's some similarities with how you described him with Barry. When I talked to him with Barry, he said, I never changed my swing and I never got off my plan. If I was sitting on, Peter's sinker and he threw 3 straight sliders, I would tip my cap knowing the next at bat I was going to get that sinker and I was going to hit it over the fence. So the true greats, they didn't ad lib in the box. They had a plan. They knew it would work. And they didn't change their swipe. So that's pretty cool to hear, Miggy, because that's literally how Barry described it to me. It was pretty cool to hear the best to ever do it talk, and he sounds just like another great to ever do it in Miggy.
From a hitter's perspective, I mean, watching him take a nasty pitch just below the strike zone, as Joe Davis said, it's like climbing into a warm bath. Like, man, like he is not. There's no jitters. There's no jump. It's just a calm, cool take. And, when I was pitching for Eastern Randolph High School, state champions, 1998, that was the guy I couldn't figure out. The one that would just spit on a curve just below the zone and just easily take a pitch. I have one last trivia question. And right now,
What's the score, by the way?
I think the score is
3-1.
Yeah, it's 3-1, but this one's going to be worth 2, just to see if we can pull off a tie here.
Love to see it.
It's been documented. We also talked about it this morning. He led Major League Baseball in appearances at the age of 39 with 85. On the all-time list of appearances, friends of the pod, Javier Lopez, Rick Honeycutt are on that list. Mike Marshall.
2 lefties, just like Peter.
Mike Marshall holds the single season
120,
record
119
with like 100. Yeah, 100 and something in 1974. Who has the all-time record for appearances in baseball history
as a pitcher?
Yeah, it's not Cy Young.
Warren Spahn.
Eckersley?
Eckersley had it forever.
Rivera? Mariano Rivera?
Mariano.
Hoffman.
So Eckersley's now 5th. Mo is 4th.
Hoffman.
So think lefty. Think
Wagner.
crafty lefty.
Crafty. Pedro Feliciano.
Crafty lefty. Dallas Perez.
Think Mets. 1,252 career appearances.
Jesse Haraska?
Correct.
Ooh, I like it. Let's go.
Bang.
Good answer.
1,252 appearances. I think he pitched till he was like 48.
Yeah. He's still pitching somewhere.
He's still pitching somewhere.
That's incredible.
So Jesse Haraska, Chop, you lost again.
Hey, you know what though? I got second, and the top 2 finish has been consistent, and I'm a model of
go through the next round.
So,
you'll win.
But
Pool
you got
B.
that right. Win in advance, or survive in advance. I guess in this
You
case.
finished second while driving a van.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, I can confirm that. Yeah,
winning in life.
There's the boys.
Winning in life. What's up, boys? Yeah.
Peter says, "What's up, boys?"
That's
They're all on their phones.
outstanding.
It could
They are
happen.
studying.
Trying to get him to hang. Yeah, trying to get him to hang up and hang out, but
Yeah, look at a tree, kids. Hey, boys, look out.
Don't be afraid. Go outside. Afraid to go outside and work on your craft.
Well, since this is a pod for coaches, this is how I wanted to close up shop today. I mean, you
just check your phone real quick because I did send you that photo. This was a this was a result of a $3,000 bet. Will you shave your head like John Smoltz? But the proviso was I had to take my hat off and walk around the mound before I threw my first pitch. So that's an actual in-game hat off Moylan with a Smoltz haircut.
For the listener, check out the YouTube. We'll post that later tonight. And that, beautiful. I mean, that's absolutely pure Smoltz. Beautiful. Who did that? Who shaved your head?
Adam LaRoche. I've actually got some. I got a series where I'm actually walking around the clubhouse with Smoltz, and I put his uniform on as well. So I was walking around the clubhouse with Smoltz's uniform on. You remember the old the fake sock stirrups? So I put those on. His Mizuno flat shoes. Pulled my pants all the way up where he liked to wear them, Harry High pants, and then I walked around.
Harry High pants.
I'll get that. I'll send that to you. Oh, here it is. Found it. Select.
Wow.
I'll throw a picture of Huddy on that thread when I later on today. Huddy was a goof. I'm surprised Huddy didn't cut your hair.
That is strong. Oh,
guarantee he chipped in on the pot for sure.
So good. So good. Hey, and so did you lose? You lost a bet? What was the bet again?
No, it was just.
He won the bet. He had to. It was a dare, and he did it. Which of course he did, because most lefties, they do whatever's asked of them. So we had so many similarities, Peter, that I just figured, you're not afraid to make people laugh.
Yeah,
you're good at life. So I
just
made an assumption.
Just like a great lefty. Oh, more pictures coming. Listener on Spotify. Wow. I mean, you can tell Smoltzy is in heaven right now. Like, I mean, he's just
young Pete Moylan, no tattoos, or a couple of tattoos, obviously.
Look at that hairy high pants. I mean, that it doesn't get much.
Shout out to Kelly Johnson for taking those photos and actually sending them to me not long ago. He still had them on his phone from many years ago.
You love to see it,
man. Well, obviously you played. You've played forever, but for our coaches out there, let's start with Chopper's age group, that high school group. I mean, you've coached a lot of kids in Australia. You've coached some of these kids that are playing against Cuba tomorrow.
Yep.
What do you have for them? What do you have for that high school coach?
The high school coach, the biggest thing for me, as I said to you, I was allowed to be myself. I didn't get a lot of restrictions put on me. There was obviously rules that I had to follow, but as far as restriction goes, you just want to let kids try and be themselves as much as possible. And the other biggest thing that I get asked a lot of the time, especially a little bit younger and high school, is how many sports to play. The kids that specialize at the moment, I know it's a big thing, and I know that parents think that's the only way that the kids are ever going to make the big leagues is if they specialize as one thing. But I can promise you the benefits of getting the hand-eye coordination from playing multiple sports and learning your body and learning how your body moves and adjusts to different things is only going to help your career. It doesn't need to be a 12-month thing where you're training 5 nights a week. They need some rest, they need some reset, and they need to be able to do other things and find out what else they love and they're passionate about, because it'll only help their game.
No doubt about it. And the only reason I started as a freshman in college is because the one spot available was right field, a position I'd never played. But I'd played outside linebacker in football. I played basketball all the way through high school. So those first steps that you need to be a good outfielder, the speed, the quick twitch. Mike Trout, he says it all the time. He became a great center fielder because he was a all-state basketball player in high school. So it's not just important. I think it's almost a necessity. It really is when you're basically vying for a job against people that are at least as good as you and probably a little bit better than you. You can't be a one-trick pony. So couldn't agree more. Chopper, anything there for you?
No, he nailed it. And you got to have joy, right? So the biggest thing for me is making sure they love the game, because this is kind of the last this is the last stop before it becomes a business, in college, and then obviously in pro ball, where if you don't have that joy to fall back on, that Peter had even when he got released, where he still loved the game, then you'll just quit and then you'll go do something else and be an adult. It's no fun being an adult.
No, and teach the game. We forget that, we get the Rapsodos and the Trackmans out, and we're bringing the iPads out, and we're not even throwing a pitch without seeing what the velo and the spin rate was. Like, teach the game of baseball. Teach the fundamentals of baseball. Teach what guys should do with runners on first and second none out, or a guy on second none out, or a guy on third less than 2 outs. Like, there's parts of this game that are just being forgotten about, and then it's being rushed in the last minute to try and turn these super talented kids into baseball players.
Yeah, showcase baseball is what I call it. It's a travesty. It's a guy that, has no command but can throw hard, versus a hitter that really has no clue how to hit. Like, the term I like to use is be a hitter, not just someone who can hit.
Yeah.
Do what the situation calls for. I saw an interview with I forget who it was, big leaguer though. Oh, it's Johnny Gomes, I think. And he said that his goal was every at bat was to change the scoreboard. So if there's a guy in third less than 2 outs in the infield, in, give me a sac fly. If there's infield's that, give me a ground ball. If it's a guy on second, get a base hit. If there's nobody on, you got to hit to the people. But I loved that thought of change the scoreboard. Like, put a point on the board. That matters.
Teach the game. I love that. Matheny, I stole this from Matheny. Youth baseball should be about kids and their passion, not adults and their goals. And then I steal this from the Savannah Bananas all the time. Your wins correlate directly with how much joy you have and how much fun you are having. You're going to play better. So keep that in mind, coaches. Pistol Pete Moylan treated me to golf in Atlanta. You can listen to him with friend of the pod Kels on Farm to Fame, which is an awesome pod. Can you give us a little elevator pitch on that? What's Farm to Fame?
We've just changed the format a little bit. We're going to come at you with 2 10-episode seasons. One that's going to be coming out at the start of the season. We're going to be hitting on all your favorite prospects that are coming up, ones you may have heard of, some you may not have heard of, who to watch out for this year, because we know the game's trending younger, very, very younger, and someone's going to make an impact on your team this year.
Bang, Biscuit, bang. And then, you're going to hear him call games for Hot Atlanta. Who are you in the booth with this year?
I'm in the booth with Brandon Golden. I'll get the pronunciation of his name. He's the voice of Madden football on your computer games. And
that's cool.
Yeah. And he's been a Braves fan. Actually wrote Skip Carey a letter when he was, I think, 10 years old, saying he wants to be a broadcaster. And they posted it when they announced him as the guy in the booth. So it's Tom Glavin, myself, Jeff Francoeur, the analysts. Frenchie does the majority of the games, and me and Tommy G split the rest of them. I'm doing some radio, and I'm also doing pre and post. So it's all happening.
Frenchie, hey.
Yes.
But I was going to say, Frenchie and I, we got drafted same year, and it was Frenchie and Brian McCann on the Rome Braves. We had battles against those boys. And you want to talk about bat speed?
Yeah.
Jeff Francoeur in center field, when he would let that freaking swing go, you could feel it. It was pretty cool.
Why did DeRosa want McCann so bad? Everybody talks about McCann.
McCann's a catcher.
Buddies.
McCann's a catcher, one of the smart. Listen, you want to know everything you need to know about McCann? McCann came up in 2005. John Smoltz very particular with the people that he throws to. And within one game, John Smoltz told Bobby Cox that's my catcher.
Bang.
Wow.
So
like Lester with Ross.
Like Lester with Rossi. He's just so smart. He thinks about things that we don't think about. He's been the director. He's been the quarterback of every team he's been on since 2005.
Yeah. Well, excited to listen to your pipes, which, as Kelsey Wingert found out, are real. Those are real pipes.
There's a real accent here. Yeah.
She told the story. She told that story on the pod. She's got a great story too, man. We unpacked her story. It's just unbelievable. And, the ups and downs of that. So I love that John Boy Media family. We'll get everybody on at some point, and I can't wait to hang out with you again, buddy.
Me too. That's maybe All-Star game this year. We might have to make an
I'll be
appearance
there.
with each other.
I think the MLB's setting up a little league field for me by the Puget Sound. So you'll have to show me around Seattle a little bit.
I've only been there once, so we'll discover it together.
Even better. Chopper, we want to give you a beard salute as you have now reached the
Good
field.
palm trees. Good weather. It's 30 degrees here in Atlanta right now.
Yikes. But you were having a heat wave last week.
For a while, yeah. And then I went to Jersey and it snowed.
Yeah, I'm supposed to do a sandlot in Glen Rock and Ridgewood, New Jersey, March 25. So hoping we're above freezing. Actually, yeah, I asked John Boy if I could use his warehouse if we need to. He said it's not kid friendly.
How many kids are you gonna have?
We got 120 from the Ridgewood
They
sandlots,
wouldn't fit in there.
and then about 80 in Glen Rock, and then I go up to Long Island. So a little weekend in Jersey there. So hey,
That's beautiful.
Can't wait. I love you, buddy, and
You too, man.
thanks for coming on. Chopper,
I
any
did this
last words?
anytime. Chop, great to talk to you, man.
Hey, great to meet you, dude. Just really enjoyed. Thank you for your time. It was great.
Anytime.
And yeah, best of luck to you, man. I'm excited for you. I'm really, really excited to hear your story. And just it's a message of perseverance. And I love that. And that's the thing for our listeners is we're always trying to uplift and just encourage and just don't quit. Like just keep going. And you did that. And look how the good Lord blessed you, dude. So I love it.
Look at that.
Look at that, right? There's
Surrounded by my trophies. Look at me. It's not about trophies, but look at this. Look at what I've been able to accomplish.
Proud of you, dude. It's awesome.
We don't
Man,
normally
Bobby
do
Cox
this,
right
but
here.
oh, Bobby Cox in his seat, just sitting
Always
back.
just whispering in my ear.
Yeah, legend.
We don't usually do this, Pete, but you're going to send us off. Send us out. Could be a motivational quote. Could be anything. But folks, thanks for tuning in to episode 60 of the Talkin' Shop podcast. And Pistol Pete Moylan will send us off.
I know I've said a lot on this podcast and I've downplayed my career, but a lot of it came from a saying my dad told me back in the day. And it's simple. If it is to be, it's up to me.
Bang.